James Clifford Carson was just a lowly weed dealer when he began a relationship with Suzan Barnes, a divorcee with 2 sons. He quickly fell underneath her spell, as he was known as a follower. Using her trust fund, Suzan and James went on drug-fueled voyages around the world, practicing radical Islam, although James was born a Jew. Suzan had fully embraced the hippie culture, but her frequent drug use coupled with her mental issues caused her to go into psychosis. James, who was more than willing to do anything she wanted, joined her on a murderous journey through California. Welcome to History's Biggest Villains. James Clifford Carson was born on November 28, 1950. He was bedridden as a child with a rare bone disorder. He was very close with his mother, later developing an obsession with the women in his life. In 1973, he had a daughter, Jennifer. After getting a degree in Chinese philosophy, he stayed at his home in suburban Phoenix, looking after his daughter while his first wife would support the family with her teaching job. James sold weed on the side to make some extra money. After James split with his first wife, he met Suzan Barnes at a Thanksgiving party. She was 9 years his senior. She was also the daughter of an Arizona newspaper executive, but her schizophrenia caused her previous marriage to dissolve. She fully embraced the hippie counterculture and began to abuse drugs. She was recently divorced when she met James. Jennifer would later say that she and her mother had to go into hiding to protect themselves from Suzan, who had now spelled her name with a Z instead of a S. There were 2 instances where Suzan had clawed at Jennifer, even drawing blood once. She had scratched the little girl's back, telling her that she would get the demon out of her. Suzan started calling James Michael after the angel that defeated Satan. Using her trust fund, they both went on voyages around the world fueled by weed and LSD. They started practicing radical Islam and mysticism, a stark contrast to Michael's Jewish upbringing. Suzan then changed their last names to Bear, so now they would be known as Michael Bear and Suzan Bear. In March 1981, 23-year-old Karen Barnes was an aspiring actress from Georgia who lived with the couple in an apartment in San Francisco. A plumber checking out the place went into the basement, finding Karen's body lying in a pool of blood. She had been stabbed 13 times and her skull was crushed with a frying pan. She was also wrapped in a blanket. There were mysterious symbols along with the name Suzan painted on the wall. The evidence suggested that she was killed by someone she knew, so the Carsons became the prime suspects. But by the time the body was found, they were already gone. They fled to the mountains of Grants Pass, Oregon, hiding there until the spring of 1982. Afterwards, they moved to Alder Point, California, where they trimmed marijuana plants for an illegal grow operation in the woods. According to the other workers on the farm, the Carsons were anarchists that advocated for revolution and predicted that a nuclear apocalypse would soon occur. In May 1982, Michael had a dispute with another worker on the farm, Clark Stevens, which ended with him shooting and killing Stevens. He tried to burn the body and bury it under chicken fertilizer in the woods. 2 years later, Clark's charred remains were found. The Carsons fled again and were again considered suspects for this most recent murder. Amongst their abandoned belongings, police found a manifesto titled Cry for War, calling for the assassination of then President Ronald Reagan and late-night TV host Johnny Carson. In November 1982, Michael was picked up by police in Los Angeles after being spotted hitchhiking. Through police error, he was freed and disappeared before Humboldt County detectives could question him. In January 1983, the Carsons were hitchhiking near Bakersfield and were picked up by 30-year-old John Helyar. For some reason, Suzan decided that Helyar was a witch, and she ordered Michael to kill him. He then started an argument with Helyar. Michael then reached for John's gun underneath the seat, and the vehicle came to a stop as they continued to fight over the gun. Suzan then stabbed Helyar as the men tumbled out of the car. Michael gained control of the gun and killed Helyar in broad daylight. A UPS truck driver witnessed the murder and called the police. The couple took John's truck and fled. They eventually crashed into a ditch and fled into the woods before being arrested. The Carsons initially called a press conference to confess to the murders of Helyar, Stevens, and Barnes. Before the trial, they withdrew their confessions and entered pleas of not guilty. On June 12, 1984, the Carsons were convicted first of Barnes' murder and sentenced to 25 years in prison. Later, they were convicted of the murders of Stevens and Helyar. for which they received sentences of 50 years to life and 75 years to life, respectively. In 1989, the First District Court of Appeal affirmed their third conviction as it had previously done on the other two convictions. Michael is incarcerated at Mule Creek State Prison, while Suzan is incarcerated at Central California Women's Facility. In a 5-hour interview with KJO-TV and the San Francisco Chronicle, as well as homicide investigators, the Carsons claimed to have been pacifists and vegetarian yoga practitioners who converted to a form of Islam and described themselves as vegetarian Muslim warriors. Okay. Their crimes emerged from a shared mission to exterminate individuals they believed to be witches. The press dubbed them the San Francisco Witch Killers. They said that they killed Barnes because they believed she had made a false conversion to their religion and was draining Miss Carson of her health and yogic powers. Their justifications for their second and third killings were that Stevens had allegedly raped Suzan and that Helyar had allegedly called her a witch and sexually abused her. They both showed no remorse for their crimes. They claimed to have traveled through Europe and back in the United States through the American Southwest and parts of California. According to Richard D. Reynolds, who wrote a book about the case, the Carsons were suspects for nearly a dozen other deaths in the US and Europe. They've each come up for parole in recent years, and both remain remorseless over these crimes. In 2015, Michael Carson wrote the parole board that he was canceling his hearing. "No one is going to parole me because I will not and have not renounced my beliefs," he wrote. Michael's daughter Jennifer formally opposes her father's release. Wow. I feel like this is just a story of a woman who just wanted to control a man and a man who was just there to be controlled. Michael was just a follower. He would do whatever somebody told him to do. He didn't really have a back. The thing that both of these people are already drug addicts. Drug abuse combined with mental health issues is not the best concoction, especially when you got two people really with mental health issues who are addicted to drugs and one woman who's just hell-bent on power. There's really no reason for why you killed these people. You just wanted to do it. And the fact, like, you knew what you were doing, like, you did it and you left. You did it and you fled. You killed the last dude in broad daylight, like right in the middle of the street. That's the thing with the drugs sometimes, man. You just lose all sense of common sense. You lose all common sense when you're on the drugs, man. It's crazy. Thank you for watching this. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Hit that subscribe button if you're new to the channel. Also, do not be afraid to turn on those post notifications. Thank you so much. I appreciate all you guys, but I'm out. Peace.